Okay, so today we're going to work in Celluclay. And I made a ball earlier because I wanted to see how long it might last. It's getting a little dry, but it's still somewhat malleable. I'm going to show you from start to finish. But what Celluclay is paper mache, and there's glue in it. So it's a little sticky. You'll see it's a little sticky, but it's very, very easy to mix. And so that's why we like it. You do have to be careful though, because it's powdery. So I gave you all a bag in your box that looks like this. And I think I put a bag within a bag so the powder would not get on everything else. If you were doing this with children, you would really control how they handled it because you don't want the powdery stuff in the air. So I'm going to mix it in a minute, but I want to just go over. I also copied for you the instructions that come with the big box. I bought it in a huge, huge box. And so it says here, it's made of post-consumer recycled paper, ready to use by just adding water. Versatile modeling material for adults and children 6 and up. So you don't want to use it with preschool. I think that they wouldn't be able to model it very well. You can use it directly over an armature by itself. And they have here the website so you can look up other things. We're just going to explore it a little bit. And I hope this doesn't take too long. I'm trying not to give you assignments at the end of the year here, the school year, that will bog you down. No pop-up books or anything like that. So when you have a big, big container of it, it tells you here how much warm water. Warm water works better than cold water. They say you can mix it in a plastic bag, but I've never done that. I usually just mix it with my hands. And I do have a bucket on the floor here of sudsy water so I can rinse my hands off as I work, because your hands will get kind of weird and sticky and get this film on it. You're going to knead it with your fingers. You want it to be like stiff dough. This is just starting to get a little too stiff, this piece, because I made this a good hour and a half ago. So you can add more Celluclay if the mixture is too wet or soft. You add more water if it's too dry or stiff. I might be able to recycle this. They have a way of adding plaster to it if you want it to dry faster, but I don't usually use too much plaster with kids. I have done a few projects with them with plaster, but our course cannot fit that in. It says to prevent sticky hands when used by young children, add a few drops of liquid detergent. And I did do that. It does help. A little bit of liquid Dawn in there will make it just a little less sticky. Okay, allow the Celluclay to air dry completely, usually overnight. Of course, the humidity will also change that. They say you could put it in an oven, 190 degree to 200 degree oven. I've never tried that. I don't know what that means, whether you should do that or not. And then they say allow the project to bake for several hours. Well, if anybody tries that, let me know how it goes. All right. So they're saying paint can be added to it while you're mixing it, so you can tint it. But I always prefer to have it painted at the end after it's dry. I guess there's something called Celluclay white. I've only seen the gray, so they talk about that here. It can be stored in the refrigerator for several weeks if kept in an airtight container or sealed in an airtight bag. So what I'm using here is my lo mein famous Chinese food container that you get for free. So you can store it if need be. Keep your hands damp while working with Celluclay because you will get this otherwise on your hands. Dip rubber stamps or other objects into water prior to pressing into Celluclay. So like, let's say I wanted to get this outline here, I can put it in the water that's down by me and press it in, and it will give you a much better, you know, this is not meant necessarily for that, but it'll give you a better result than if you just use it straight. If you're indenting or something, if you try to use a tool. All right, we're not going to do rubber stamps, obviously. If you want to try something like that, you could use your texture plates. That would work with this, but you'd have to wash them off when you're done. You can add details to the Celluclay while wet with fingers, stamps, modeling tools. You know, you could just even use, you know, a pencil, my famous pencil, where you can just make some gorgeous patterns or lines, etc., etc. Something like a tongue depressor too, you know, can make some beautiful, beautiful textures like that. Okay, after drying, use tools to saw, sand, drill, carve, and paint. Now, I've never drilled or sand or carved or painted, but it's interesting that it is supposed to be that hard, you know, when it's done. Basic tools needed are water, paper towels, a slick working surface. I'm going to use a board of masonite and a simple drying rack. A drying rack usually is sort of like one of those cake racks, so that it's drying underneath while it's also drying on top. If you put it down like that, it won't dry in the bottom very fast, because everything is going to dry from the top. It'll take much, much longer. Okay. For an armature is something that is inside. So you can use crumpled newspaper and put this around it if you wanted to make like a puppet head or something like that. You can cover it with cardboard. You can use tubes, boxes, clay pots, balloons, cans. And then they tell you to create hollowware, which is like an empty thing. You're going to wrap something, and then you're going to cut it, and then you're going to put the two halves together. Obviously, that's a little more advanced. We're not going to do that either. You can use plastic molds. We're not going to do that either. We are going to paint it if you can. I hope you can. And you can use dry tempera added to this, metal leafing. I suggest you use acrylics. If you have gesso, you could gesso the object first, and then you can let it dry and then paint it, because then you'll be able to really use the colors. You can glue buttons, feathers, rhinestones, beads, yarn, crepe paper, glitter, etc. You can seal the projects with varnish and use weather resistant sealers. I know many years ago at a craft fair, I bought a pair of earrings made out of this, and the person had made a flat piece and then cut it out with a cookie cutter, and they were these giant stars earrings. So, you know, you can still do that. So I'm going to add a little more water to this so it can sit and regenerate a little. But I want to show you from start to finish. So let me get my hands dry. All right. So I don't know if it makes any difference, but they're telling you to add warm water to the Celluclay. So I'm not going to use it all. I'll use like a good half of the package, and I'm not expecting enormous things from you. I'm just expecting that you're going to work with it and then see. Now let's see if my water is warm. Yeah, I think it's warm enough. So I'm going to take my Meow Mix, and I have a little suds in here. I don't know if it's enough, but I'm going to just add a little and scrunch it up. It's still too dry, clearly. I'm going to add it on my hands a little. It's kind of funny feeling. sort of like dirty stuff you might find like on the floor in your basement or something. It's kind of creepy, but most kids like creepy, not everybody. Some kids are going to go, ew. You know, I suppose you could wear gloves with this if you wanted to. I just want you to play with it. So 1:30, you're going to make me an animal a la like how we did last week. Although this will attach to itself probably a little bit better. It's not going to shrink the way clay does. And so we're just mucking around with it here and getting it into a malleable form. So this clay here is a lot wetter than this ball here. I'm going to get some water on my hands. Keeping the water on your hands will prevent that dry, powdery thing. Now, I'm not expecting you're going to make me some fancy dancy thing, but I would love you just to try to do some little fun piece. I'm talking right now to 1:30. And if you want to, you can make a family of animals. And it doesn't even have to be like something fancy dancy, because I just want you to get the feel of this. So if you wanted to make like a mama duck or something really simple, you could. And the shape would be fairly easy to sculpt, I think. You can, of course, you have to paint it, but you just work with it, and then you could make a million little ducks following. This is a duck with an extra long beak and a fat neck. All right. So that's one idea, is you can make a little duck, and then you can let it sit there for a little bit while you're making the babies, and you can then poke in eyeballs and maybe some details on the beak. I've done things like animals stacked on top of each other with kids. They enjoy that. They also like to make little tiny things. So you could have them make a miniature thing. I picked a duck because it's just easy to show you, but you can do, some of you made sort of like dinosaur-y things with our clay. So you got to use yours are, again, like always, will be better than mine. But let's see, I guess I'll show you sideways how these guys will look when they are. This little duck has to have a skinnier neck. There we go. Something like that. All right, now let's make an animal. Let's see. I wonder if I should add some of this or use this. So you can. It's the same thing. You can pinch out an animal and pull it the way we did last time by making the appendages like a star, if you want to. That is sort of a tried and true way that I found that children can understand how to get to an animal quickly. A lot of them will want to stop right there and say, oh, it's a starfish, I'm done. But try to not let them be done quite that fast. So let's see, I'm going to take this one's way too big. I'm going to fold it over. Let's see, this will be the head. Turtles are very big. Kids like to make turtles. So you could make a turtle, but I think I'm going to make some kind. I'm not asking you even to do a particular animal. You can make up an animal. So let's say I want to make a tail. And texture, of course, the texture, you can add texture. If you want it smooth, you're going to have to really play with it, and probably you might even have to do a little bit of sanding. I want to see if I can't get some kind of really big fat tail on this creature. Let's see. I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Maybe we could make a cat. I don't know. I have to add a little more to the head to do that. So just play with it, and don't get all nuts with it. I just want you to sort of understand that it's a material that has possibilities that you can explore. I figure it's also a material you probably didn't know about. I'm trying to bring you new things that aren't necessarily common knowledge, you know. So here, let's just, instead of putting the eyeballs on, I'm going to just today cheese out a little bit and just poke in. One thing you can do, I didn't bring my trusty clay tools upstairs from my storage area, but you can cut into things. I don't know what this is. This thing looks sort of like I don't know what, a hyena from the front. I think actually I'm going to change I want to give it a bit of a nose. The painting will help it kind of come out a whole lot more. And maybe I want to make it taller. I just kind of squeeze. But it shouldn't take you hours and hours. Don't spend hours and hours making this, okay? No hours and hours making it. All right, so there's that example. Now, I'm going to mix a little more up, and 131, stay here. Now, 130, I got one more thing to show you, but I want to clear away this first. So stay and watch what 130 is going to try to do. Now, 131. If you might have enough to do both, but I wanted just to make a second project, because I know that I used to do gravestones with my kids when they would have, they needed them for stage sets, because Celluclay looks so great, but you can do, you can write words with it. You can make like skulls with it. So you could make a tombstone if you want. Or you could just make a sign, or you can make really, really anything. But I thought you would work on a bas relief. Bas in French means low. So this is a low relief. If you were working with kids, let's say they studied Egypt, you could show them some examples of Egyptian hieroglyphs and carvings on some of the pyramids and walls. And then they could make a symbol or a bas relief on a piece of cardboard in a similar style that would reflect them. And that might be interesting. So you don't even have to use your whole piece of cardboard. Just I would say don't slop too much water around it, because one thing that happens when cardboard gets wet, and I gave you thin cardboard because that's all I could get. I couldn't get the heavier stuff in a small enough size to fit in the box. So see, this is really sticky right now. So I'm gonna add a little bit of detergent to this and hopefully get it a little less sticky. And I'm going to wash my hands and see how that worked. So you don't want to make the cardboard too wet. If you have a heavier cardboard that's just like sitting around the house, you could use that. Sometimes the back of sketch pads and stuff have a thicker they have a much thicker piece of cardboard at the end. I always save those because those are really great for, well, for everything really. So there. Yeah, so this is a little bit better. So I made a thing here that is just a sign that just says, it's going to have a spiral and it says B. I was going to do breathe, but I knew I wouldn't have time to make that with you. So just B. And you can have your students, well, brainstorm a little and then draw. I don't know if you can see on here, I drew in pencil where I want my Celluclay. And of course I would not just, I would decorate the outside too and make it a little fancier. But I'm working in coils. You don't have to work in coils with this at all. Sorry about that noise. That is somebody texting me. Huh, it could be somebody trying to get into the class, but oh, I can't touch my phone. Okay. Well, my surface is getting a little tacky. Might be easier to work on aluminum foil or something. You know, by the time you finish a job, you know how to do it. That is my mantra. So just explore, and you can pat it down. So I don't think I want to, I'm not going to continue the spiral. You can see where it's going to wind up. If it's wet enough, it should absolutely stick to your cardboard. And it's not going to look great, but you can paint it when you're done, when it's dry, and then it can look really great. With this, you would start painting the background first, and then you would paint the actual image. But there's no limit to what you could do. You can just make a design. You can make a warning. You can do a picture, flower. And as I say, if you have thicker cardboard, use thicker cardboard. So it doesn't have to be big. I just want to see some kind of a bas relief. And if it's upsetting to you that 130 gets to make animals, you can make animals too. But at least give me a little bit of a bas relief. I want you to explore that. Here we go. So there's my B, such as it is. And then I would have an E. Then I would probably jazz up the edges, you know, maybe with, I don't know, balls or something. This piece is still a little. This one might be a little more agreeable because it's been used a little bit more. And if you want, you can use cookie cutters and just put cookie cutter stuff on there. If I wanted to sort of do a border, some kind of cool border that would have balls and lines, and then you'd put a pattern in there. Pattern, because you know it's because it's a bas relief. We can put in a pattern. We can. I would go all the way around the whole outside. So to make it look really wonderful. And then I might even put some little rays from my spiral just to inspire me. But 131, do you have enough of an idea of what I'm asking you to explore? Jen?
Yep.
Okay. I want to make sure I'm not rushing this too much, but all I'm asking is a cardboard. Doesn't have to be the full space. Now, if for some reason it doesn't stick when it's dry, just take a little glue and kind of put a little bead around it. It should stick because it has glue in it, but I just want to be prepared for any eventuality. Since I'm not in the classroom with you, I can't be there when something bad could happen. All right, so now washing hands. All right, so Celluclay, have a little fun with it. And now I'm going to just switch gears slightly because my 130 group, I'm going to ask you not just to make an animal, but I'm going to ask you to make a stick puppet. Because I figure, well, I want everybody to be able to explore the Celluclay, but a stick puppet is easy as can be and very, very versatile. And I would be remiss if I didn't show you and encourage you to make one. I believe I gave you tongue depressors in your box. You could also, though, use dowels or pencils. These are two stick puppets from previous classes. This one is on a dowel, and this one is just on a regular old pencil. You can make them two-sided. So then you would just trace the shape and glue it, once you had it on. But obviously these aren't. And I think puppetry is something that is so great for kids because they can combine writing and fantasy and all of that with their visual art. So you may want to just make a puppet that would come from your shape book that you made or your pop-up book. I'm going to ask for just 2 characters. These are just a tiny, quick drawing. They could be of a human, just any kind of character at all that you would really want to have. So I guess I'll do PJ the cat, who is upstairs right now. And PJ the cat is kind of chunky right now. I think it's put on some COVID weight. And let's see. He loves to look out the window. We'll give him a kind of a big belly there. And I think I'll put his tail on this side. All right. So he will add to this story somehow, some way. So there you have it. So then the next step would be, you can color how you want, Sharpie, watercolor, crayon. I'm going to just use markers because I happen to have them here. Speaking of markers, let me show you that really fast 2-second thing that I did with the spritzing. In fact, I've decided that for your last week, instead of giving you, the assignment of using oil pastels, which you can use if you want. I guess we should give them another little leg here. I'll let you do a spray drawing, but if you recall, I couldn't hold it up for you because it was dripping. So that's the kind of quality you can get, and it can be quite beautiful. All right, so PJ is a marmalade cat, and we're going to just give him his marmalade handsome looks. He really doesn't have a little white on his belly, but mostly he's marmalade. When you're using a marker, a lot of kids are going to scratch like that to color. Try to teach them to fill it in and use the side of the marker a little bit more, because you'll get a much smoother color that way. Of course, he's got enormous whiskers, so you got to put some whiskers in here. We'll call that a day. He does have, oh, maybe we won't. Hold on. We'll just do one more detail. I'm always asking you all to do details, so I better do details too. This is not exactly accurate because his stripes, while he has them, they're not exactly red, but he's got his little marmalade things happening. All right, so there's PJ the cat. So this really should not be an onerous assignment. Of course, where are my scissors? That's not a good thing. Well, I'm just going to take a little gander over to my scissor box. So I'm a tune while I come back. Yeah, I'm a professional. Yep. I had someone working for me today, and I think he pinched my scissors because he had to open a package. All right, so here we are. And just remember the rule of you move the paper, not the scissors. It's so much easier. So I would just say to the kids as I'm doing this, I would say, now we're going to make PJ a little bit dizzy, because they actually grasp the fact that the image is moving and the scissors less so. So let's make PJ a little dizzy, and then they'll remember that. Sometimes you have to use some devices that will get them to remember. Because the natural tendency is to move the scissors around, and it is just so much harder. Now you could be really detail oriented and actually have the whisker. Yep, there we go. That works great. Stick out like that. And of course, the variations for this are many, 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 many. My goal totally always is just to teach you one thing that has a jillion possibilities, and you can take it from there and go anywhere you want with it. And you guys have really, you've done me proud. You've really surprised me in so many ways. So what we can do, you don't have to have a lozenge, but if you do, I mean a lozenge, not a lozenge, but a depressor, you could definitely use it. But just a pencil will work, seriously, like an old chewed up rotten pencil. You could paint the pencil if you wanted it to look better. And with this, however, because it's flat on the back, it would be really, really easy to make the other side of it, and to trace it and make the other side of it, and then he'd be able to sort of move around. But you can make a little puppet theater just on the end of the table and have the students interact, and each child could have probably at least two puppets to handle. And so maybe you could make teams of 2 kids with 4 characters. And the problem actually with doing a little bit of theater like that with children is they create incredibly long plays that are boring as can be, and you can't get rid of them. So you have to just say, okay, everybody's play is going to be 45-second play, mini play. Quick, beginning, middle, end. Just you want everybody to have a turn, but they just tend to want, once they get going, they won't stop. But this is the kind of project that your kids will do at home because they can, because they'll have the materials at home. Obviously, Celluclay they probably won't have at home. So that's that. Any questions? 1:30 about stick puppets?
Nope. Thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording, and then we will talk about homework. Okay.